Hello, hello, beautiful people. You are listening to XLR Lander University Radio. It's your girl, Lauren Deschanel, and your favorite rockin' radio host, Scotty Rocket, bringing you Tupac tonight and every Tuesday night.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello. We're sorry that we weren't here last week. We were going through a lot, and we're actually going to be kind of talking about that this week. Today's topic is mental health and how that's handled in minority communities. October 4th through the 10th is Mental Health Awareness Week. Lauren, you want to give this warning?
So, a little bit of a trigger warning tonight. So today's episode is going to be a little upsetting, so we're going to go ahead and tell you what it's going to be about. We are talking about mental illness and suicide. As much as we want you guys to listen in, we care about you guys, and we just need to preface that.
Mm-hmm. So as important as it is, for us to have listeners, it's more important that we do check in and, take care of you guys. So, here's your opportunity to click out of here if you want. We're happy if you're here, but take care of yourself first.
If at any point you need to leave, no questions asked.
No questions asked. We love y'all. On October 2nd, we lost our very dear friend, and we said goodbye to him this past Saturday. So this is something that we felt was really important to bring up because it's very relevant to us right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of where we're at, so kind of bear with us. This is our first time back on air after that. And so we're kind of rolling with the punches here. So be patient with us. We love you guys. So first we kind of wanted to bring up one, a statistic. We're going to be referring back to things today. So, cool.
So, suicide has become a leading cause of death in the U.S. among all age groups, but particularly in youth and young adults. It is the second leading cause of death among 10 to 34-year-olds.
So this is, not something that we're just dealing with, but that a lot of people are dealing with. And so we did feel it was really important to bring it up with such high statistics. And so today what we're going to be digging into specifically is mental health in minority communities, because this is Tupac, which means
we are two people of color talking about what that's like.
Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be talking about mental health and mental illness from the perspective of
people of color.
People of color.
And that's not to say that people of color are the only people that struggle with this.
Absolutely not.
It's just something that we have both seen and is not talked about in our communities.
It's handled a very different way. So we're going to be talking about how it is handled differently, if at all. And we're going to be talking about the taboo around the word suicide, because that is something that's very taboo to ever bring up.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about why mental health is not, why it's not talked about or taken seriously in communities of color. We're also going to talk about our own experiences with mental health struggles, and most importantly, why it is very important to check in on everyone around you. So we'll be going into a lot of things in all of that. We also want to give a shout out to Spill the Tea. Hang on, let me pull my phone out here because I am unprepared as always.
We're totally a radio show.
That's a little jingle from the folks back home. Shout out 97.9. Anyway, so Spill the Tea is having a Fear Factor Week. And FEAR is an acronym because we love acronyms. It's for Face Everything and Rise. And they have multiple things going on this week. Yesterday they had Mark It Up Monday. Today is Empowering Tuesday. Tomorrow is Remembering Wednesday. And Thursday is Unity Thursday. Lauren, you want to talk a little bit about what's going on there?
So Unity Thursday is going to be a walk that Spill the Tea is hosting, and it's going to be on our campus at Lander. and you wear all black. You bring a whiteboard and or a poster board, and we walk in solidarity.
If you don't have poster board, there's going to be a table in the CC at 3 tomorrow, as well as on the day of at 5 leading into the walk. Tomorrow, Remembering Wednesday, is posting on social media about lives lost as a result of injustice. You can follow their Instagram page for more. That is at
T-Talk20.
T-Talk20? Awesome. Yes, so that is them on Instagram.
On Instagram.
So T as in, like sipping your tea.
Like the drink.
Like the sip. Like the drink.
Like the drink.
And the hashtag is LU Fears No More. So that's something that you guys might want to check out. I would check it out. We'll be there at the walk.
We will be there.
So go on. Do your thing. So yeah.
Let's bring up feelings checks.
Feelings checks.
So feelings checks is actually... A feelings check is something that I heard on the show that I watch with Megan, Grace, and Frankie, where Frankie often says, feelings check to know how Grace is feeling, because Grace is not the type of person that will show her emotions. So I've started to use that in our apartment, especially since last week, just to know how everyone's feeling. So the point of a feelings check is you say it, you can say it at a person, or you can express your own feelings just to see where everyone's at and to check on your friends. I'd highly recommend trying it.
Absolutely. It's opened up a lot in our apartment. I've been here 3 years now and haven't had such an open communication in the house, so it's really nice to know that we can just check in on each other.
And it feels so safe.
Yeah, it really is a safe place. And we can probably touch on that at the end of the show when we're talking about checking in on others or our own things.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So we will be right back with Tupac on XLR Lander University Radio.
Welcome back. You are listening to Tupac with your girls, Lauren Deschanel and Scotty Rocket. Do you think it's time for a roll call?
I think it's time for a Whitney Houston fun fact.
Let's go with a Whitney Houston fun fact and a roll call.
Yes.
Yes.
So, fun fact about Whitney Houston. I thought I had one, but I didn't. Oh, wait.
She was so adamant.
Her cousin is Dionne Warwick, if you guys did not know that. Represent keeping all the art and creative strengths in the family. Roll call.
Roll call, first and foremost. Of course, we're going to give a shout out to Amy.
Shout out to my girl Amy, all the way across the sea.
All the way across the sea. I just read your message, and I did not have the time to reply back because I was...
Literally, the clock was ticking.
The clock was ticking, and my heart was beating. But thank you for your kind words. I adore you. Bianca is listening. Bianca, we love you so much. Hugs. Caitlin, our roommate, is listening. We love you so much. Hugs.
I'm pretty sure Reese is listening.
Reese is probably listening. If you're not Reese, you sure tricked us. My mom is listening right now.
I'm sure my grandma is listening. I'm sure Mama is listening.
And if we missed you guys, you gotta let us know.
Yeah, please let us know.
We can't just imagine these things or figure them out.
You guys can text us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh. Olivia is listening.
Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Abram if you're listening.
Shout out to Abram if you're listening. We love you guys. Absolutely. So, on with the show. If you're just now tuning in, today's episode is upsetting. So we're going to go ahead and make another trigger warning here for those of you that are just now jumping in, because we are talking about mental illness and suicide, and as much as we want you guys listening in, we care about you, and we need to preface that. So, if you're just tuning in, you can tune out if you want now.
Okay. So, let's talk about the taboo of mental health.
So, hang on, because I messed up. Right. Cool. Taboo of mental health. So, we're going to be talking about people's understanding of it. So, when talking about mental health, a lot of times you'll get either one or two reactions. One is kind of positive, somebody who's either dealt with it or has known someone who has dealt with it, or you get someone who has no understanding of it at all, and these people are kind of tricky to talk to a lot of times, and there's kind of like this list of things that we hear over and over, things like it's, quote unquote, these are for quote unquotes on all of these, things like it's all in your head, or just be happy. Lauren said, people is tricky.
That's her line. Anything is tricky.
Something is tricky. But, yeah, things like it's all in your head, just be happy, which is toxic positivity. And that's something we can go forever on. Things like it's an easy fix.
Other people have it worse.
Or, other people have, quote unquote, real issues.
And that one hurts because it makes you feel like your issues aren't real.
Exactly.
Especially when they're issues that you can't exactly help.
Exactly. And the quote of the day is going to really tie in on that. So we'll come back to that later. But that's at the end of the show. But yes, mental issues are very real issues. And a lot of times they're the least preventable. I can watch out for breaking my leg. A lot of times you cannot watch out, or you can't check on yourself as you're going down a hill with your mental health.
And with your mental health, it can cause like a little bit of a spiral. Like,
absolutely.
You could be a little sad one day, and then something could add to it. You could spiral even more, and it's often hard to pull yourself out of that spiral.
Absolutely. I feel like we as a society in general do not prioritize mental health enough because of a number of reasons, and we'll get into those again more later. But it's also really a relatively new concept, this idea of self-care.
That's true.
It's not just, taking baths and listening to nice music, which helps immensely, by the way.
It does help.
That's not like a, don't do that. Absolutely do that.
Absolutely
that helps.
Yes.
But
self-care is extremely important.
Yes. Like checking in with yourself, being honest with yourself so that you can be honest with others around you when they check in on you. It's very important. And because of this giant taboo around mental health, people don't want to check in on themselves because they think it's selfish. It's selfish. And it's not. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. And we need to, emphasize that.
And opening up to people about what you're struggling with is not selfish at all. I think that's a big part of the reason of why we lost Jackson.
Because
he didn't know he could open up to us.
Yeah. Jackson was very, very open. And when we say open, he was open to take on other people's things and always put out this just ray of positivity. But we did not know about Jackson's issues. And I think a lot of that has to do with stigmas around mental health.
And one person described him as being a performer. And that's something that a lot of people do with their mental health. Every day can be like a performance, and you always wonder, when does the curtain close? When is the show over? And when can we relax? When can we stop masking and stop putting up walls and just be ourselves? And when you start to lose that sense of being yourself, it's so hard to get that back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Moreover, we're talking about the taboo of mental health, but we also wanted to talk about specifically the taboo of suicide in general. This is how we lost Jackson. It's out there now, and we've been trying to cope with that And we also wanted to talk about people's understanding of that as well, like from the outside. Again, you'll encounter people who either get it or don't. And people's understanding of those who don't get it, they see it as tragic, but don't really understand. Or you'll find people who really have the audacity to say it's attention-seeking.
Oh my gosh. And there's also the part where people say it's selfish. And while you're grieving and angry, it does feel selfish. But you also have to understand that there's a deeper meaning behind it.
And we are not condoning this at all. This has been, in so many ways, the hardest thing to ever deal with. But
grieving someone who has passed away this way is so different than grieving any other death that I've had to deal with. It's so hard to wrap your mind around.
And a death like this is something that makes people uncomfortable. And it's a huge reason why suicide is not talked about. Because it makes people uncomfortable. Like, hey, let's not talk about that. Or, hey.
And that's why people don't confront it.
Exactly.
And why so many people fall victim to it.
Exactly. It's this whole, you know what, no, it's not a big issue, so I can handle it. And then that whole I can handle it just piles and piles and piles.
Until you break.
Until you can't, yeah. And like you said, it's such a different way of grieving when you have to grieve something like this.
That's true.
We do not have all the answers. We're honest with you on the show. We do not have all the answers, and we don't understand fully. And we are still very much so dealing with this. And
we're so young, and we are not at all professionals in this.
But for now, we're going to go ahead and take another break.
Listening to Tupac with your girls Lauren Deschanel and Scotty Rocket.
Hello.
Hello.
If you are now just tuning in, today's episode is upsetting, and so we're reiterating our trigger warning here because we are talking about mental illness and suicide, and as much as we want y'all listening in, we do care about you guys, and we do need to preface that.
We are so thankful for anyone who is still listening.
We really are.
And we appreciate your understanding. And I just want to give a quick shout out to my cousin Antoine. I love you so much. Thank you for always being here for me. And I appreciate you tuning in.
I want to give a shout out to, you heard Bianca's name earlier, but her mother and grandmother are listening right now. Thank you guys. It means a lot to us. On with the show. So, this is Tupac. For those of you who are new to the show, Tupac is spelled 2 which means...
Two people of color.
Yes.
What are we?
Two people of color.
Exactly.
And therefore we are Tupac. And we play Tupac before every show, and it's a whole cute thing. But, on this show, we often talk about racial identity, culture, and race relations. And so... to kind of keep us on brand with the show, we're going to be talking about mental health being handled differently in communities of color, how these are, usually talked about, if at all. We have a graphic up here, so if we take a second to kind of read through it every so often, just be patient with us.
I might throw the graphic up on the story after this talk break.
That might be helpful. It's a graphic from 2017, but it's a chart pulled from the Suicide Prevention Resource Center. So, promise it's legit for 2017 at least. But moving on. So, Kamaya M. Dennis, she is a writer for Vice. And I pulled this quote from an article she had, but in the African American community, there's a tendency to label suicide and mental health conditions as quote-unquote crazy, or evidence that you aren't praying enough. People in this culture, as well as Hispanic, Asian, and American Indian communities, are less likely to acknowledge the possibility of having a health condition or seek mental health services. So I kind of wanted to bring that up and have just a few questions on that specifically. How much of that would you say that you agreed with?
I definitely agree. I have heard these things before.
Absolutely. It's really different in communities of color. And since we are both biracial, we kind of have both perspectives on this thing.
And also, I feel like I have this unique perspective of being raised by someone who has dealt with depression and being raised by someone who has not dealt with depression. So I have like this unique point of view where I can see both sides of it. So I know what it looks like and I know what the signs are.
Yeah.
But I also understand why someone might be confused by this.
Yeah. And so, again, this is an open conversation, and if you guys have any questions, if we can't touch on them during the show, we are always open to either suggestions, questions, or topics that we can write about on our blog. We'll shout that out later, but yeah, because we do have unique experiences here. But yeah, I would say that I really agreed with Dennis on this, because they're not talked about enough and they're rarely acknowledged.
I'm wondering if, being a person of color, if this became a thing, that if mental health has become a thing of you're crazy or this is not your biggest worry right now, because of the way that people of color have been brought up just in society, like over the course of years, like just our long history. Like, we never really had the time to worry about mental health because people of color have dealt with so much from the beginning of time. That wasn't always the biggest concern. The biggest concern was just surviving.
And we'll be touching on that a lot in our next talk break, so stay tuned for all of that. Going back on the taboo.
Shine bright like a diamond.
Sorry, guys. I'm just an idiot. Anyway, don't mind me. Sorry. Back on the taboo.
It's okay.
It's been one, y'all. The ceiling in the station is not here. We are falling apart.
Oh, we are falling apart in more ways than one.
Quite literally.
Week.
But, again, as we were,
We were talking about the taboo.
Yes, taboo. I've said the word suicide more in this past week than I have in my entire life. Just, it's come up in conversation with us and our friends and just so much this week.
I cannot remember who said it, if it was you or if you were just in the group with me, but someone that we were talking to said that friends should talk about suicide more. Just to make the word more familiar and to learn that it's not this taboo bad word. Because while it does bring up all of these negative feelings and emotions within us, because it sucks and it hurts, it should be talked about so we can normalize it and put an end to it.
Yes, absolutely. There's so much going on back here, but thank you for that. Yes, that is a thing, and we do need to talk about it, which is why we're talking about it right now.
Right.
And it's not something that's often brought up in families, for us specifically, families of color. Would you say that suicide or mental health is something that was ever talked about in your house or among your family?
I think it depends.
Yeah, we can talk about both.
Yeah.
We can talk about both.
I talked about being raised by two different people. I mean, being raised in technically two different households. One household where mental health was something that the person raising me was going through.
Mm-hmm.
Something that they've been struggling with for their entire life, and we talk about it openly. Sometimes we have late night talks where I share how I'm feeling, she will share how she's feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and that person's Mama.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mama and I, we talk about mental health frequently, and dealing with Jackson's death has been something that I have come to her more with, because I knew that she would get how I was feeling. I knew that she would understand that I'm angry with him, but I know what he felt like.
Mm-hmm.
And she knows what he felt like. And talking to her just feels more safe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't have to reiterate the thing of, oh, but I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, because it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
But people who haven't had to struggle with mental health don't understand that being not okay doesn't mean that you're going to make a bad decision.
Yeah. It's okay to not be okay as long as you know that eventually you will be okay.
And being okay, I feel like it can be sort of a spectrum. Being okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just came up with that.
Nice.
But it makes sense.
That's nice. We're going to pull that from the recording later so that we know what you said exactly. Welcome back. You are listening to Tupac with your girls, Lauren Deschanel and Scotty Rocket.
I'm going to give some quick shout out to my dad for listening this week and every week. Shout out to some of my favorite listeners, my biggest fans, my Aunt Dottie and my cousin Nia. I love you guys so much.
Aww.
Listening all the way from Tennessee.
Yes, wow, I love Tennessee.
Me too.
I could go for hours talking about Tennessee, but that's not what we're here to do. Shout out to my mom, she just went to sleep. But this is a recorded show that you can find later in the week when I always get around to it. And we'll tell you about the links later, but this is a recorded show, so don't feel bad. Lauren, you want to give our warning because we are talking about some things?
Yes.
Okay.
So, if you are just now tuning in, today's episode is a little upsetting. So we're going to go ahead and make a trigger warning here because we are talking about mental illness and suicide. As much as we want you guys listening in, we care about you guys and need to preface that.
Mm-hmm. So, moving on. Earlier, we were talking about the taboo surrounding suicide, and we kind of touched on this a little bit. But we're talking about why, some reasons, some explanations, why suicide and mental health in communities of color might not be discussed. One of these things is it's not a priority. That's a quote-unquote, okay? It's not a priority. Lauren said earlier, she was talking about how it's, all my life I had to fight.
Not the color purple quote.
But, yeah.
So something that I'm just kind of realizing, it might not be a fact, it's just something that I just have kind of noticed, is that mental health might not be a priority in communities of color because we're more focused on trying to survive.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's always been that way.
I had a conversation with my mom about that. Like, it's just not been at the forefront,
There's so many other issues that we have to tackle.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why mental health is so important.
Yeah. And along with that, they're always working hard to be financially secure and physically secure. It's like, are all my ducks in a row?
And fighting for equal rights every day is hard.
Yes. And it's like, I don't have time to worry about this thing in my head, the quote-unquote in my head again. People will say, it's all in your head, but a lot of times they'll tell themselves that too.
And technically it is because it's the chemicals in your brain.
Yes, of course.
But you feel it all over.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, it's just not addressed because it's not a priority. And sometimes it's, something left on the back burner, or it's something that honestly offends a lot of people of color. Like this whole, how dare you, be upset with, be concerned with your mental health right now when we're trying to focus on this, or when I keep saying it, but that's like a whole thing. Like
I've been saying it all week.
I know, all my life I had to fight. That's a whole thing.
You really need to watch The Color Purple.
I know. Why am I like this? We'll do that. There's
I feel like you'd understand that quote more.
I feel like I've been using it wrong this whole time. I don't know
if this is appropriation. But no, I'm kidding, guys. That's our joke that we make.
I don't know if this is racist, but it don't feel right.
We say that about anything and everything. It could be...
It's raining outside, and we're like, hold on.
I don't know if that was racist, but it don't feel right. I got it from a TikTok. Please don't be offended. I promise it's
TikTok,
just a joke.
Just a joke. Promise.
We promise.
We use that at each other all the time.
We use it at each other. We use it on my dog. My dog used it on Megan. I mean, Scotty.
Yes. But, yeah, so, it's not a priority. Another reason why it might not be discussed is this whole, you can't, quote-unquote, afford mental illness.
But you quite literally can't afford it in some cases.
Exactly. And we're talking about this financially and... Emotionally. This whole, again, it's not a priority, but financially. Oftentimes, quality mental health resources are something that is only accessible to higher income communities and families.
You often feel like you don't have time either.
Yeah.
Or like you don't think the rest of your family has time to deal with your mental health.
Exactly.
And honestly, I would rather deal with someone's mental health, and deal is the wrong word. But, because it's not something you have to deal with. It's something that you take care of. Mm-hmm. I would rather help someone take care of themselves than have something like Jackson's story happen.
Exactly. Please.
Reach
you
don't
out.
Know how frustrating and infuriating and just how devastating it is to find out that you lost someone to suicide.
Exactly. Moreover, on, this whole can't afford, quote unquote, thing is, communities of color oftentimes view mental health as and I'm strongly quoting this because, it's a yes, but more than this, quote unquote, invisible sickness. And it is. But it's just because something is invisible does not mean that it does not exist. Like Lauren said earlier, it might be just in your head, the chemicals in your brain and all the science that we don't know about. But it does affect almost every aspect of your life. It affects your friends, your family, and even if it doesn't affect them in the moment, if it goes too far, it does impact us in every aspect of our life.
And it's not as invisible as you think it is.
Yeah.
As much as you would like to pretend that everything is okay and you don't want your friends to check up on you or worry about you, they can tell.
I feel like we're just adding each other today.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's okay because we'll do a feelings check after this.
I was going to do a feelings check right now.
Oh my gosh.
Because you just said that.
Wow.
Megan, Scotty Rocket, the Rock Johnson, think about them. Rocket.
No, you've lost your privileges. We're moving on.
Wow, I lost my feelings check privileges because I used every single name that you've ever used.
No, it's because we are on a time and we are going.
Mm-hmm. I think someone's deflecting. That's fine because that happens as well. And while that's okay, please don't deflect for too long.
Please don't take me as an example. We're going to be talking about this later, like in our own privacy, etc. Feelings check are a thing. Okay, please.
Mm-hmm. It is a real thing.
Talk about your feelings. But moving forward.
There's not a lot of education.
There's not a lot of education on it, and it's something that to fully understand, you probably have to go out and get a doctorate for.
If you don't understand the signs, if you don't understand what mental health is, if you don't understand that there are so many different types of mental illnesses, then it can often be hard to know what it's like for people who do struggle with them, or to even know that you're struggling with them yourself. Yeah,
like if you or someone you know hasn't dealt with it, you're not likely to discuss it or research it or go out of your way to do that. And that's a big thing on lots of issues. If you don't know, you can't learn more.
That's true.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot about it except for what they tell you in school. It took someone close to me telling me, like, hey, I think you might be depressed, for me to really recognize that within myself and to start to learn how to cope.
Yeah. Joel Seymour said on his show No News, which is Fridays from 10 to 11. Yes. 10 to 11. And this was completely unrelated to this, but it was to about just issues in the world in general. You have to know in order to care, and you have to care in order to take action. And I feel like that's one of the best quotes I've ever heard him say.
He has a lot of great quotes.
He has a lot of great quotes. Absolutely.
Shout out to Joel.
Shout out to Joel. Now,
and to Tim.
And Tim, our boy Tim. We're not going to explain.
Tim, no last name.
But yeah, you know, if you don't know or you're unaware, you're not likely to discuss it. And so add on the fact that it's already something that's not openly discussed in minority communities. And so now you have this cycle of misinformation and misunderstanding.
I think a lot of people think that they might be seen in a different light, that they might have people look down upon them for struggling with mental illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, if someone does look down on you for struggling with depression or anxiety, maybe talk to that person and see why, because they might not understand it. Or, just listen to somebody else that does understand.
Yeah.
That way it's easier.
Yeah.
I was going somewhere with that, but I forgot where I was going.
Podcasts are a beautiful thing. I never realized how important podcasts would be. Like, if you feel like you can't sit down and talk with somebody one-on-one because you don't have, like, all your words together, you don't know how to word how you're feeling, listening to somebody else talk is so helpful.
You know what else is helpful?
What?
Radio shows like
us, which are later transforms into kind of podcasts when we post about. But yes, because opening conversations is very important.
So, that being said, we will be right back with more conversations on mental health and touch on some experiences that both of us have had in relation to it. So stay tuned. You were listening to Tupac with your girls Lauren Deschanel and Scotty Rocket.
Cool. Do we have any shout-outs?
Any shout-outs? Yes, actually. Shout out to my Aunt Linda. I love you so much. I'm so glad you enjoyed the package I sent you. I was so excited to give that to you.
Aww.
It was Friends themed.
That's so nice.
Right?
Caitlin actually just got her friend's sweatshirt today.
Caitlin's a fake fan.
But don't say that on air. It's very soft.
It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke.
But anyway, yeah.
So, I love you, Caitlin. Don't come for me.
Soft. She was very excited.
He's soft.
So excited. But moving on, back to the show. And this is Tupac. I don't know why I had to reiterate that. But if you are now just tuning in, I know we were just giggling a little bit, but today's episode is upsetting, and so we are making trigger warnings at the beginning of each session, because we are talking about mental illness and suicide. And for those of you who are just tuning in, we felt that that's important because we care about you guys and we want you guys to listen, but also understand that that's a hard topic for a lot of people. So we did want to preface that every time we came back, just in case new people hopped in late. But for this break here, we're talking a little bit about our own experiences with mental health. So kind of bear with us, because while feelings checks are a thing in our house, it's not often that we talk about them on air. But we're doing that, kind of, just a little bit. You guys get a little scratch about us.
A little scratch of feeling checks.
Yeah.
Would you like to start a feelings check?
Yeah, just so that you guys know we're legit.
I promise I won't say your name too long this time.
Alright. I was like, are you starting the feelings
Neither
check?
of us want to go first.
All
and
right.
that's usually what happens.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Feelings check.
feelings check. Awesome. Lauren, go.
Okay. I knew that was going to be it. The feelings check for today. Today's been a hard day.
Yeah.
It's been really rough. Those of you who know me closely know that tomorrow, October 14th, is my Aunt Kim's birthday. And we were really close. And she passed away a year ago. It'll be 2 years in November to cancer. And just having a really hard time dealing with that, on top of dealing with losing Jackson last week. And it was on the 10th, the anniversary of when my papa passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just been a really tough time. I've gone from being outgoing and being around my friends to just kind of wanting to be alone for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Love you.
I love
Here
you.
for you. Support you. And we can talk more about that in the car.
Feelings check in the car.
Feelings check in a car.
Okay, Megan, Scotty Rocket, the Rocket, the Rock Johnson.
You can't try to go for the whole name if you're not going to say it right.
I can't say it right because you have Scotty Rocket and then you have the Rock Johnson.
Megan the Rock Johnson, Scotty Rocket Higginbotham. Get it right. Come on.
Gosh.
But, feelings check. Right now, actually, I'm doing pretty okay because we're talking. Because I'm always more hype when I'm on the air. That's why I love doing these shows. That's why I love hanging out with you and doing these shows. Really like radio, guys. But it's kind of been like an in and out kind of day, and it's mainly been like that for the whole week. I'll be super hype and then catch myself. You know, when I walk by a mirror, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm here, and it's this whole thing. I have Jackson's picture up on my wall, and so I kind of look at that every time I go out.
Keep slowing down by his car.
Yeah, I have just recently been able to drive the way, you know, where you do pass it.
Which is a big step for you because it's only been a week.
Yeah, it was really hard to do originally. Like, I broke down when I first saw that car, and we're here now, so it's good. Yeah, so feelings check concluded. Till the car later, but you guys don't get to be in on that.
Another thing that we do outside of feelings checks is we do little confessionals.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about our little setup?
So, as everything else in the house, it's mine.
I wish you guys could see our apartment. It's just Megan's house.
It's just Megan, but I threw up everywhere.
It's just Megan and like 3 of my blankets.
Yeah.
4. I'm just going to keep adding blankets until it's my house.
It's not. But anyway, it's your house too.
I have a pumpkin.
Yeah. Yeah, a pumpkin.
A pumpkin.
There's a pumpkin in there.
We love pumpkins.
Yeah, Laura put a pumpkin in there, so it's technically her house too. But yeah, we have this thing. I have, like, in my room, I keep my bed all the way at the top. I like a nest, and underneath it, I have a hammock. I don't even know when, but I put a tapestry on the side of the bed, so it's kind of like a
curtain.
like a curtain, you know, separating the hammock from the rest of the room, and it's like a whole thing. And if you don't really know how to face someone and talk about something or like bring up a certain issue, we have a system now where you can pop into Megan's office and do a little confessional, you know. And it's quite nice, you know.
Confessionals are open to you as well.
Yeah.
If you ever need me to be, I feel like I didn't have a good phrasing for that. That didn't sound really bad.
Yeah, but yeah. So it's you know, one of us will sit on the outside of it, and one of us will sit in the hammock, and the one sitting in the hammock will just kind of talk about what they're feeling, and then afterwards, if they want to talk more on it, they can. If they don't, you know, then it's out there, and it's discussed off their chest.
You get a hug when you come out.
You do get a hug.
Another thing that we do is we take walks.
We do. Take a lap.
Take a lap.
Take a
And
lap.
we have started naming our feelings. I, with grief, often get angry. Or, you know, just feeling sad quickly turns into anger and sassiness. sassiness.
Sassy?
Caitlin, I just want to let you know I did the hand sign for sassy.
Sassy?
Sassy? So, when I'm angry, my name is Snacks.
Mm-hmm.
We only refer to Angie me as Snacks.
Yes, and that is thanks to a friend of ours. One of the times when we went over to Jackson's place on one of these said walks or laps, we popped in on Jackson's place and we talked about D&D, and one of our friends, Joe, shout out to Joe, he said that he had this D&D character. Was it Joe or Thomas? I think it was Joe.
I really don't remember who it was. Let's just give them both credit.
I think it was Joe, because Joe was very confident when delivering this, I think, in my brain. But he talked about how he had this one D&D character that was basically like this
old
baby,
really powerful baby. Like, think Jack from The Incredibles, but even more powerful.
Yeah, he had this like sword that made him very violent. Violent. I said violent. Violent.
As a baby.
Violent baby. But yeah. So
that
so
baby's
that's our
name
Snacks.
was Snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of characterizing helps lighten the tone too.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
And also just being able to be like, I'm feeling like Snacks today.
Yeah.
Or if I am feeling upset and Megan does something nice for me, I will say Snacks is pleased.
Snacks is pleased.
Every time. Snacks is pleased.
Yes.
And that's how you know the moment is starting to ease off or it's almost over.
Yeah. But so yeah, that's kind of how we talk like in our little dorm house about these things. We also wanted to kind of touch on friends with mental illnesses, family members, and kind of conversations and, that tensity there. Yeah. Lauren said that our friend said earlier that it's so important that we're talking to our friends about these things now, because we all go through issues, and these were things that I guess none of us just knew about each other.
They don't seem real until you find out that someone else is dealing with them too.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about how we are so upset that it took Jackson for the rest of us to kind of talk about these things, but it's like, wow, I'm not crazy.
And always check up on your friends. Jackson gave us no indication. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, we don't want to spiral because that's not what we want to do, especially right now. Yeah. Aside from us spiraling and picking apart just the finest details you wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Yeah. And, moving on, we're also talking about, with Jackson, how that conversation was kind of handled in our families. Like we said earlier, things are dealt with in different ways in communities of color, and so we both kind of have like an insight on both of those perspectives. So with Jackson, we were both home for the weekend, like at our homes for the weekend when we got the news, and it was devastating. And so kind of how did that conversation go? How was it handled?
So I was at home with Mama. Mama and I are very open about mental health now, and we have been for a while. I was with her when I got the news, so I'm glad that I didn't have to go back and fill her in later. I was sitting with her, so she was there to comfort me. And we talk about it a lot, like just knowing that there was a lot of pain involved for Jackson, knowing that the chemicals in his brain just made him feel so terrible. Yeah. That he got to that point. And both of us knowing that we should be aware that this can happen to anyone. Yeah. And that it's okay to be angry, but to also understand that this is an illness and to treat it as such.
Absolutely. At my place, I was with, my family was sleeping when I got the news. We got the news the night of. But I remember I woke everybody up because I was just screaming and crying kind of thing. And the next day, Nicole went to go hang out with her friends because one of them had come up from Georgia, and so I was like, it's okay. You had plans. And my mom meant so well, and Mom, when you listen to this back later, I appreciate it. I know you were trying, but because mental health and mental illness is not something that's discussed in our family, like, really ever, it was kind of hard for her to figure out how to comfort me. And so, within that 24 hours of finding out, I did not want to move. I did not want to go anywhere. I knew that eventually I'd pick back up, but in those 24 hours I was processing, and everything felt like just an overload. I could look at a light switch and be like, Jackson lit up my life, or I could look at a blade of grass and be like, Jackson liked grass,
Yeah, it makes sense.
And it sounds silly, but it absolutely happened. I cried at everything.
Those first 24 hours of grief suck.
Yeah. And, she kept telling me, like, get up, let's go. Or, like, come on, let's go do something. And I'm like, I really don't want to. And she didn't want me, like, sitting in the house or letting myself dig a hole. And, like, I get where she was coming from, but it was like, this was not how to handle it kind of thing. And while I appreciate that, it just hurt a lot. Which is something very honest, guys, because we keep an honest communication on this show. Mm-hmm. So, what up, Mom? I love you, okay?
And I want to add to that because there's another family member. I don't want to, call you out or anything. But this has been said to me a lot, and I know that it's always meant out of a place of love and concern. Yeah. But I think the phrasing can be very hurtful when you say things like, just don't get depressed. Don't let yourself get depressed.
Yeah, my mom was saying that to me, kind of thing.
And I understand the meaning behind it. I appreciate that you are saying this to me because I know that you want me to feel better, that you want me to be okay. But it is so hard to say okay or to say, oh, I won't get depressed, because grief does bring that feeling. And that's a feeling that I had before grief. It's a feeling that I have now. It's a feeling that I'm going to have after grief. I mean, grief doesn't go away, but it can be unrelated sometimes. And I love you, and I thank you so much for reaching out to me and saying those words.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they were best said at that time.
Yeah, and I think that does just go back to communities of color just not knowing.
And depression being a filler word.
Yeah.
Depression can be a filler word for a lot of things, as can anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. I have a number of cousins and family members with anxiety on my Filipino side, and oftentimes they're just completely overwritten as, oh, she's anxious about something.
Or you worry too much.
Or like, oh, she just gets nervous kind of thing, when I'm like, this is a full-blown panic attack right now, or this is a serious, like, anxiety attack right now. Like, this is a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that's really weird and trotted along, or like glazed over kind of thing, or big words being used in little ways kind of thing.
Yes, big words being used in little ways. Like with worry. Like, I'm a worrier. I worry way too much. But it's often out of anxiety.
Yes.
Like my little spirals and bouts with, I'm so worried about this, and it can keep going when it's really just my anxiety. Listening to Tupac with your girls Lauren Deschanel and Scotty Rocket.
Now, this is our last session of the night, but if you have tuned in really, really late, 1, we appreciate you being here. 2, you might want to leave. If you are now just tuning in, today's episode is upsetting, so we are putting trigger warnings at the top of each of these, because we are talking about mental illness and suicide. And as much as we want you guys listening in, we do care about you guys, so there's that. Here's your moment to leave the classroom. Cool. Any roll call?
Any roll call? Just shout out to my boy Tim.
Shout out to the boy Tim.
That's the boy.
That's the boy. I just got a friend request from Tim on Facebook.
I know. Me too.
He's been added to our group chat.
I'm so glad he's here.
I am too. He's important to us.
He is.
Yes.
He's one of us.
He is one of us. Shout out to Joel. to Joel for bringing us Tim.
Now, Joel, I know you and Tim have had your issues in the past, and I support both of you. I just want to let you know, Joel, I'm here for you anytime you need me. Tim, that is not to say that I do not love you. I do.
She's just Team Joel.
I am Team Joel.
Yeah. Well, moving on. This is important. We are talking about why it is important to break stigma and to taboo and to talk. We've kind of been talking about that all of these 2 hours, but we're making a whole thing dedicated to why and big reasons why talk about it. So, first off, conversation is a form of education.
Yes, it is. We learned most of what we know from word of mouth.
Yes.
It was an excellent thing to write. So eloquently put. Megan, Scotty Rocket, the Rock Johnson.
It's Megan, the Rock Johnson, Scotty Rocket.
I'm going to keep saying it wrong.
I know.
Anyway, she made the outline for this week, and
Yes.
I'm so thankful that you did because I could not.
Yes.
And it's beautiful.
Thank you. But, yes, we learn most of what we know from word of mouth, and whether that be fun facts about platypi or Whitney Houston or literally anything.
Literally anything.
Or big issues, like big issues that I don't know.
Like what we're talking about
Like
right
what
now.
we're talking about right now.
Like mental illness and suicide.
Yeah.
People usually don't know what to research or how to research unless they are aware of an issue.
Yeah.
That's why we have things like awareness days, weeks, and months to open up education on things not usually covered in school.
Yes, because I absolutely did not learn any of this in school.
I did, but it just barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, they said, like, hey guys, don't be sad. Go talk to our middle school counselors or
if
something.
you think that you might be suicidal, please reach out to a friend.
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing.
And they'd be like, to your teacher.
And they'd make it seem like such a bad thing.
Yeah,
like
I'm like,
you reached out,
we need to talk. Make this an open conversation because it's uncomfortable.
And in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, man, I sure wish there was someone I could talk to talk to about this.
Yeah.
But you don't, because you're like, oh, but this person's doing this and this person's doing this.
Yes. Which is why we have things like
Feelings checks. And confessionals.
Yes, because they're just right out of the blue. Amazing. But yeah, conversation is a form of education. Use that quote. Put it everywhere. I thought about it real hard in my noggin. The dome worked hard.
Conversation displays support.
Yes, it does.
I felt so supported this week and last week by our friends.
Yes.
By you, by Caitlin, by our instructors, just by them reaching out to us.
Yes. By our friends, by Jackson's family.
But yes.
My goodness.
Their family, his sister reached out to us. Shout out to Kelsey Wise.
Shout out to Kelsey.
Such a strong
shout out
being.
to Mark. Shout out to Susan. The Wise family.
They are very wise.
Walking hug.
I said that last night. They are very wise.
Yes.
And I am so glad that they invited us to celebrate Jackson's life.
Yes. It felt like a form of closure kind of thing.
It did. It felt surreal, but it was much needed.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I was making sure that it didn't do the thingy again. But, yeah, so conversation displays support. If it's not talked about, then changing that silence that we keep talking about is so hard to do because it just lets it fester and get worse.
And if you ever don't know how to bring it up, just start with feelings check.
Yeah. Like, we are giving that to you guys. Use feelings check. Someone's like, what's a feelings check? You can describe it. And I'll be like, oh, that's nice.
Just checking up on your friends or putting yourself in check so you know that you should open up to your friends.
Yeah. your friends want to know how you're feeling.
None of your friends want to find out how you were feeling through the worst message that we have ever gotten.
Yeah. Your friends want to know how you're feeling.
I would rather know about how Jackson was feeling than to not be able to talk to him at all.
Yes, absolutely. We cannot stress enough. Talk. Bring up your feelings because they matter. I almost used a boo-boo word on here because of how passionate I am on this subject.
The FCC will get you.
Yes.
I learned about that today in radio production.
Oh, look at that. They will get you.
They will.
They will. They will hawk you down and ask, why is the ceiling gone?
Oh, we don't need all those questions.
The ceiling's gone.
The ceiling's gone because we had a leak. That's all we have to say.
Can we
about
just
that.
not talk about why it's gone? It's just, we just don't have a ceiling right now.
I just said why it was gone.
It's like a TV studio in here. Ain't no ceiling.
And it's so cold.
It's so cold. But, yeah. No one wants to come out and say, I'm struggling, because humans are stubborn and we hate asking for help.
It's not a sign of weakness. I know it feels like it, but it's not. Someone very wise once told me that asking for help is like one of the strongest things you can do.
Absolutely.
And it makes you stronger than the next person that doesn't ask for help.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Because it is so hard.
It's so hard, and it's so important. It's so important. Like, I'm so thankful for our little house.
Me too.
Because if this had happened over quarantine, I do not know how I'd be.
I have had to deal with grief pretty much alone because I was afraid to ask for more help.
Yeah.
And I don't think I will ever do that again after seeing the big difference of allowing people to help me. Mm-hmm. It feels weird to me because I'm like, oh, I feel so weak right now having everyone, kind of do what I need. Mm-hmm. But in the long run, I know that they appreciate that more than the latter.
Absolutely. We're all kind of losing our minds right now, but we
are losing our minds together.
We lose our minds together. Shout out to you, Abram.
Shout out to Abram.
Shout out to Abram. We lose our minds together. Well, is there anything else you want to say?
Just reach out.
Reach out. Please. Please.
And it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
I would rather not be okay with someone else than to not have them be here.
Yeah. We care about you. If you genuinely do not feel like you have someone to talk to, reach out to us. We'll figure it out. Okay.
We have Instagram. We have all of our social media. If you want to reach out to Tupac specifically or to one of us, our social media is tagged.
Mm-hmm. So we are coming up on the end of our hour. We are technically there, but we want to go ahead and say thanks again for all of those joining us tonight on this journey of research, conversation, and self-discovery. Mental health is something that is very near and dear to our hearts now more than ever. And please know, I know we've just gone over this a lot, but please know that there is always someone to talk to.
I know it sounds generic, and I thought the same thing too, but when you go through it, it is so important. Mm-hmm. So important.
There is always someone to talk to. We are open to conversations, answer questions, but ultimately it is kind of up to you to check in with yourself as well. This is important, so we're going to put this out there. If you or someone you know needs help, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That number is 1-800-273-TALK or 1-800-273-8255. Or you can visit their website. The hotline also has an online chat option, or you can text the crisis line. There are things.
For Lander students specifically, we have counseling services that are free and on campus. Mm-hmm. To schedule an appointment, call the Wellness Center at 864-388-8885. And we have student concern forms looking out for your friends. It's not snitching, sorry. Mm-hmm. It's not. If you think that your friend is in trouble, snitch on them. Please. I promise. I wish Jackson were mad at me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I would so much rather Jackson be like, I can't believe you guys. This is so stupid.
I know, like, I would love to hear him just be like, no, I was fine. Like,
Fine.
he would say it just like that. Like, I'm fine, Mom.
Fine. Gosh.
I know, make us sound like we're crazy,
I
but...
know. But we'd so much rather deal with someone being angry and snacks at us
Yeah.
than what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
So be sure, guys, to follow us on social media at 2POCXLR for updates, contents, and more. And be sure to tune in again next week. Same day, same time on XLR, Landy University Radio.
Also, check out our new website, www.2poc.weebly.com, or follow the link in any of our social bios.
Yes, if you want to DM us, ask us questions. We're trying to get this blog going, so if there's stuff that a lot of people want to talk
We
about,
should actually write some blog posts, you know.
Yeah.
We keep talking about it, and we never do.
I had a whole thing set up for this month, and then I just got out of whack. But the quote of the week this week is from Demi Lovato. Actually, we played her earlier and thought that she was. I said that like 3 times.
It's okay.
That she was a great person to quote from today because of how much she has struggled with mental illness and how much she has like built herself up
How
later.
open she is.
Yes. But, quote, I wish people could understand that the brain is the most important organ of our body. Just because you can't see mental illness like you could see a broken bone doesn't mean it's not as detrimental or devastating to a family or an individual.